for greatness, baby. You were made for greatness. And don't you let them tell you nothing else, yeah. You were made for greatness. Oh, you were made for greatness, baby. You were made for greatness. And don't you let them tell you nothing else, yeah.
Hello, this is Antoine Rogers with the first episode of Out and Up, the podcast where we encourage young people to go outside of the sport that they're playing to achieve their very best. And I am blessed to have on our very first show an awesome young women's volleyball player at Fayetteville State University here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Ms. Xiamana Spikes. I appreciate her being with us. And Ms. Xiamana, why don't you go ahead and give everyone an introduction on who you are?
My name is Xiamana Spikes, and I'm from Rayford, North Carolina, and I've been playing volleyball for 8 years.
So we're going to get right into the questions. Again, with this podcast, our goal, we will talk about sports, of course. However, our goal is to cover questions to really challenge young athletes to think about their lives outside of the sports. And I'll explain in detail. I know I gave you all some explanation in the introduction video to Out and Up. However, as we go, we'll explain a little more, some things we want young people to kind of focus on away from the game. But the first question, what inspired you to start playing volleyball?
What inspired me was it was something new. My mom has always had me playing sports ever since I was 5, recreational in Rayford, North Carolina. So when we moved to Durham, I had the option of playing volleyball, which I've never played before. So I thought it would be something new and a good experience for me.
Since you said that, what are some other sports that you played in rec ball?
I also did co-ed baseball and soccer as well as basketball.
Do you have any aspirations to play volleyball beyond college?
I have thought about it. Definitely since they came out with the idea of the National Volleyball League. And I thought that would be really good because volleyball is getting the recognition that it deserves for being such a great sport in America, because if you look at other countries, they already have a program like that. So I have thought about that.
Okay, awesome. Now, when you started 8 years ago, did you have some struggles getting used to the game and learning the game?
Yes, it wasn't as hard as most, considering I've been playing sports for a long time, but technical wise and getting the basics, it was very hard. And then I also got into travel volleyball, where usually the kids there, when they doing volleyball, they have a higher level. They're at a higher level because they've been doing it at such a young age. I think you can start doing travel volleyball at the age of 5. I started around 13, 12 years old doing volleyball.
Wow. And it seems like even in that short span, you were really blessed to really learn quickly and really become very successful at the sport. So that's awesome. So you're at Fayetteville State University. What year are you in?
I'm an upcoming junior.
Okay. So why did you choose Fayetteville State University?
My mom definitely had some persuasion in that area because she is an alumni from Fayetteville State University. And she told me how much fun she had and how many experiences she had going to an HBCU. So that was definitely one of my reasons for going, as well as volleyball.
I'll tell you a little story about me and Fayetteville State. But I think being from Fayetteville State, I can say this and you'll have a response. Attitude check.
Bronco pride.
All right. So let me explain my story. I'm gonna give everyone a quick laugh. So graduating high school myself, I ended up at Fayetteville State University. I was a football player, and I'm gonna say it was in '95. So you can go ahead and count the years and see how old I was. However, I was not focused, and that's what a lot of what this show is about: being focused on life beyond the sport. Some outside things kind of distracted me. I went back to New Jersey and didn't finish. However, the joke in the house is my wife is a graduate of UNC Charlotte. That's where she got her bachelor's from. She got her master's from somewhere else, but she got a bachelor's from UNC Charlotte. However, when we're talking about schools, I'll always say, or something comes up about Fayetteville State, I'll be like, I'm an alum from Fayetteville State. She'd be like, not going there for 3 months. Now I'm gonna ask you, because you still going there, Xiamana. Can I say I'm an alum from Fayetteville State?
Maybe. You have some of the experience going to Fayetteville State.
Okay, all right. I'll take that. I'll take your answer. You were being nice, but I'll take that. But I feel like I'm always a part of Fayetteville State. Just for those few months that I went there, I stayed, and I don't even believe it's open anymore. I stayed at Vance Hall.
Yeah, it's not open anymore.
All right, it tells you how long it's been. But yes, I'm a Fayetteville State alum. I don't care what anybody says. But okay, so You said your mother had some influence in that. Were there some other schools that you had, a choice to go to?
Yes, I looked at another school in Missouri as well as another HBCU in Tennessee.
Okay.
And I made sure to have a broad spectrum where I wanted to go. I didn't want to just constrict myself to North Carolina because there are a lot of opportunities out there. So those were some of the schools. And I think there's also another one in Ohio that I thought about going to.
Choices, young people, you'll have choices, and that's why you have to be totally focused on what your long-term goals are. So I'm sure a lot of that leads up, even though Xiamana definitely said that she was influenced by her mother. At the end of the day, I'm sure Fayetteville State still had to line up with what her down the road goals were, in making that decision. So Xiamana, we're going to take a quick break for a quick infomercial. So greatly appreciate you answering the questions thus far. And you all, we will be right back after this break. So welcome back. This is Antoine Rogers with Out and Up, the podcast. Again, back with Ms. Xiamana Spikes, awesome volleyball player from Fayetteville State University. So Xiamana, we're gonna get back into a few questions. So if you were not playing volleyball, did you have a plan B, or was there something else that would change where you are today? I mean, was there a plan B?
Sports wise, if I wasn't playing volleyball, I'll probably be doing track and field because I also did that in middle school and high school. In academic, I'll still be going in the medical field. Right now, I'm looking towards PA school. That's what I'm doing right now. So that would be my plan B.
Okay, awesome. So this is something that needs to be pressed more with young people as far as athletics. The goal should be a student athlete, which means we heard that word student come first. Miss Xiamana, you are a student athlete. Give us today, what is your GPA at right now?
Currently I have a 3.5 GPA.
Awesome, awesome. Because what we need to know is that athletics come first. Sports may be taken away from you. You still need to be taking advantage of getting that education. If you're blessed to be an athlete that can utilize athletics to kind of help you get through school, whether it's scholarships or anything else, then definitely by all means, that's a blessing. However, make sure you're getting your work done. So Xiamana is being a great example of that by making sure she's taking care of those classes with that 3.5. So that's awesome. And Miss Xiamana, what is your major in school?
I'm a organismal biology major.
Career-wise, where would that major take you, or whatever else you need to take in classes? What are your career goals? I'll just ask that question.
I'm looking at going to PA school after I graduate from Fayetteville State University, and that will be another 2 years also.
Okay, all right. Are there some schools specifically that you're looking at?
I'm looking at different schools. I'm looking at Morehouse Medical School. There's a PA program right next to Fayetteville State Methodist. So I'm looking at different areas.
What's the big difference? I think young people need to know this in the middle school, elementary school range. What's the big difference between high school and then transitioning to college, from the sports end as well as academics? What's the big difference?
The level of commitment you have to the sport as well as to yourself. Because something that I learned while becoming a student athlete in college is that I'm the person that's pushing me to get my grades, to get out of bed, to go to class. My mom's not there like she was in high school and middle school to wake me up in the morning. I do that myself. I have to tell myself to get up if you have to go get something to eat, and I just stay in my bed in my room all day. I have to go out and get some sunlight. That's something that is very different from high school and middle school, there are times where you have to be your own personal motivator, that someone else is not going to be there for you. And then also with my experience, this was something new. I didn't have anybody that I knew at Fayetteville State at the time when I came to Fayetteville State. Whereas I would say I went to UNCG, I would still have a lot of friends around me. So it was definitely new. I didn't have that many family members. They were in Rayford, but not really around the Fayetteville area. So it was really a lot of me depending on myself.
And this may touch on that question a little bit. If you have something different for it, fine. But what are some obstacles you face, and you touched a little bit on it already, face being a student athlete? Not just a student, but being a student athlete. What are some obstacles that you, or you may even know other people may face as being a student athlete?
Something that I faced personally was setting time aside for myself, because again, being a student athlete, you always want to go, you have to organize your time right, so you have time to do your classwork as well as working out for your sport. So I had a really hard time setting time aside for myself so I can have time to relax and to adjust to what I'm doing. Because if you don't have that time to be to yourself and calm down and relax, you really can have a burnout, which is something I did not want to do, considering that we had 5 o'clock morning practices. So I feel like every student athlete, even from high school to now, should be able to set time aside for themselves, because if you don't, eventually you'll end up burning out, getting tired, and just having a bad day or a week, maybe longer. So I think the hardest thing I had to do was setting time aside for myself.
So then I'll ask the second part to the question, since you kind of made it a little more personal. Are there some obstacles you've noticed maybe some friends, some peers, or other students deal with when it comes to that? Something you may not deal with, but something that some other young people may end up dealing with. What are some other obstacles you may see other student athletes deal with?
Other student athletes, well, recently it was not having anything to do sports wise, because once that sport had left during the pandemic, we had to find something else to keep ourselves active, something for us to do. Rather than doing the sport all the time, because usually during the season or even off season, we have these workouts that we do and things like that with the team, as well as maintaining your grades, because sometimes that can be hard, along with doing the sport, definitely when it's very rigorous, going to a D2 or a D1 school.
How important is it to have positive people in your circle?
Very, very important. My mom has raised me, to stay out of drama, always have positive people around you. You don't want to have any pessimists around you to just bring you down. I think it's very good to have positive people around you, because you also can adapt that mindset when you're in bad situations or difficult situations.
All right. So the second question, I think you already answered it. Who inspires and motivates you just throughout life? And I think you're going to say the same thing, but go ahead.
My mom, definitely, because she's
awesome.
always been there.
Again, we're out and up. We're about encouraging you on focusing on life away from the sport. And I believe so many young people, one of my other focuses I deal with when I mentor, I often end up mentoring young men who don't have that positive male role model or that positive role model at all in their life. And so Xiamana is blessed to have her mother, but I just believe young people have to know that even in the midst of not having that positive male role model, there are people around. You just have to, find a way. Even I'll be honest and say, pray about it sometime, that God leads you to someone that can encourage you and keep you motivated. The one thing you want to do, and we touched, the first question was on positive people in your circle. We watch it even on the pro level. Pro athletes still carrying around friends that are doing the same things they were doing when they were growing up. However, it's good to stay connected from one standpoint. However, those people can be a very stumbling block. It takes away the very awesome opportunity you have for being great, or even get into a place that you can then come back and help change their lives. So I challenge you to stay focused on surrounding yourselves with positive people that can keep you on the right track, motivate you, like Xiamana talked about with her mother, and you'll eventually get to a place in life, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, or any other career field or professional athlete, that you'll have those opportunities to then come back and help your community. But you must stay focused, get through your classes, do the things that you need to do. Xiamana touched on it real quick about the pandemic, and I know we didn't talk about it, but I'll ask this one question, because I know we all want to get past the pandemic. But Xiamana, We just went through a year and a half and some change on where, like you touched on, things were shut down because of the pandemic. How did the pandemic affect you? And again, you said these things, but if you need to repeat them, fine. How did it affect you personally when it came to being a student, your personal life, as well as sports? How did it have a personal effect on you?
Well, at the time of the pandemic, I was a sophomore, and I have friends in high school still that were a grade below me, and they're incoming freshmen at their college. So I was actually worried about some of my friends that were incoming freshmen in college because they didn't have the opportunity to have the same freshman year experience at college where you're introduced to your school, you see the different things that your college has. And also there was the fact that that connection of volleyball was not there for me anymore, something that I've had for the past 7 years at the time. And then suddenly it was just taken away. And then in the middle of the semester, we finished our first semester, my sophomore year, but then in the middle of our second semester, we were just told to stay at home during spring break because of the pandemic. And then staying at home all the time, where you're used to being out with your friends and things, did take a toll on me as well as others. So we had to connect in different ways, through FaceTime, Google Duo, and Zoom, things like this.
So you all watching or listening, we have here before us an awesome example of a young lady who is not just focusing on life from the sports standpoint. She may be blessed to play volleyball beyond college. However, she also knows there's life beyond the sport. So that is what we want to challenge our young people to do. Make sure you have your plan outside of the game, because today it can be here, tomorrow it can be gone. So thanks again, Xiamana, for joining us today. I have a picture, Xiamana, and I want to know what comes to mind. Let me see if I can pull it up and if you can see it. This picture right here. This is 2019 CIAA champions, Fayetteville State University women's volleyball team. And I believe you're in this picture, Xiamana. When you see this picture,
Yes.
What's the first thought comes to mind?
Excitement, one of a kind experience, honestly.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
Because Fayetteville State at the time I don't think they had won a volleyball championship in the past few years. So this was really amazing experience for the people on the team that were there for a while.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. So I know we're looking for doing some even greater things as your career continues at Fayetteville State University. We definitely wish you the best. We thank you for being here with us today. So again, those that's watching, remember, there's life beyond the sport. Let's not make the sport that you're playing your identity. Have an identity outside of the sport. However, if you're blessed to be an athlete, use it to its fullest and enjoy it. Enjoy it, put the hard work in. I'm the same way when it comes to the sport, like put the hard work in to be great at the sport, but let's also be great at life. Thanks again, Xiamana. We thank you for joining us, and all those that joined us for our first show. Look forward for some more great interviews like this. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for having me.
Reflect greatness. Let's go. You were made for greatness. Oh, you were made for greatness, baby. You were made for greatness. And don't you let them tell you nothing else.